Welcome, everybody. I'll call the meeting to order. We'll begin with a roll call, please, Shanae.
Mr. Williams,
Yeah.
Mr. Coons, Mr. Coons, Mr. Harris,
Here.
Mr. Jesse,
Here.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Here. Mr. Kuntz has resigned from the board, and Mr. Jesse has requested to join remotely. He has informed the board that he'll be unable to attend the meeting in person today, and he asked to be allowed to join the meeting electronically. Therefore, we must follow the Board of Supervisors policy and rules of procedure established for electronic participation in meetings due to a medical condition or disability. Supervisor Williams, why are you asking for approval to participate in this meeting electronically?
I have a medical condition that prevents me from being there physically this afternoon.
Thank you. The board must have a majority vote to approve Supervisor Williams' participation in the meeting by electronic means. All those in favor of allowing Supervisor Williams to participate by electronic means, we need roll call, please. Shanae?
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Yes. The attendance is approved. Let the minutes reflect that Supervisor Williams' participation by electronic means is due to a medical condition that prevents him from attending in person today. And Shanae, thank you for jumping in and helping us. We'll begin by asking Mr. Jesse to open the meeting with prayer.
Yes. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I'd like to thank you for just waking us this morning and letting us see another day, dear Lord. Let's pray for the sick and shut in. And dear Lord, also let's pray for those ones in the Middle East with all that war and hope that war can be over with, dear Lord. And dear Lord, let us make wise and just decisions as we make county business today. These and all the blessings in my Heavenly Father's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Matt, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Would all citizens of our nation rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. First up is approval of the consent agenda, and we have some changes to the minutes that were published in the packet that I'll ask Heather to please review those changes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there are three corrections. The first is for the October 2nd, 2023 minutes, which was the Board of Supervisors Town Hall meeting. It's the minutes, the draft minutes reflect that I was present, but I was not. The second change is for the October 3rd, 2023 Board of Supervisors regular meeting minutes. Under the county engineer updates, that would be your board packet, page 9, the last paragraph, where the motion was made. And reviewing the tape and the discussions, I think the motion should be clarified to state that a motion approving task 1 and task 2 of the topping service area scope and fee schedule dated July 28th, 2023 with Timmons for the total lump sum of $35,100 was made by Mr. Jesse and seconded by Mr. Harris and carried unanimously. And that's simply because we were discussing that item and the document was referenced in the actual discussion, but it was unclear from the written minutes that we were referencing that document. But it was clear from the video. And lastly, under matters presented by the board on board packet page 12, Mr. Coons' effective resignation date is October 31st, 2023, not 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other changes to the minutes?
No, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes with the proper changes.
The consent agenda?
The consent agenda. Second.
Motion by Mr. Jesse, second by Mr. Harris to approve the consent agenda as modified. Any discussion? Your roll call, please, Shanae.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. I'll now open the floor for public comment. Has anyone submitted a request to speak, Janae? And we'll just reach out to the audience and see if anybody would like to address the board. And if you do, please come to the podium. We'll make sure the mic is working and give us your name and where you live, please.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to allow us to speak today on behalf of an item, I think it's item number 5C on your agenda. We received, I'm coming here on behalf, Beth Hurd and myself are here on behalf of the Deltaville Community Association, a nonprofit organization located in Deltaville, Virginia. I'm sure you're all familiar. We received an email in October of 19th regarding 2 dumpsters that are located on properties of the DCA from the Assistant County Administration, Ms. McCarty. And in that email, it was questioning as to when and why and how those dumpsters came to be on that location. It's been there for a very long time. There was no precise memory of how it began. But what we would like to speak to as to why they are there, and that we feel and hope that you will agree that they remain there. A second reason is that there seems to be no public record as to why they were there and how they got there. So, and I hope this was okay. I emailed, or the DCA emailed each board member because we learned of the agenda too late to get into the packet. And so we emailed each board member the letter which I'm about to reference. And hopefully this letter will be archived in the county record. And by that way, if at some time in the future when we are not here to remember, there'll be some written record as to why the dumpsters are located in the DCA. And by the way, let me say first off, thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you for the dumpsters in the DCA properties. And I'm gonna just briefly read the letter. I know you all are very busy. The Deltaville Community Association is a 501c3 not-for-profit organization, and we own and maintain nearly 20 acres within the heart of the village of Deltaville. It's divided into 3 distinct campuses, and we touch both Jackson and Sturgeon Creeks. The dumpsters in question are located on 2 of these 3 campuses. In the heart of our property is the DCA Community Center campus, which serves as a nexus for the community activity. This property features state-of-the-art pickleball courts, tennis and basketball courts, and a children's playground. It is the location of the Ricky Taylor Memorial Swimming Pool, which hosts, at no charge, the YMCA Learn to Swim program for Middlesex second grade students. It is a paid by swimming pool and hosts our DCA-sponsored youth swim team. The campus is also the location of our community center, which, in addition to affordable rentals, enables over 140 events each year. It hosts public events such as candidate forums, great decisions, paint classes, and art shows. This is a location of one of the 2 dumpsters.
Excuse me, Randy. That's your 3 minutes. With the board's permission, we can allow you to continue. Is that okay, gentlemen?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I should have known I'd run over 3 minutes.
Technically, you're representing a group, so we can give you more time.
Oh, I've got 10 guys back.
There you go. You're representing a DCA, so.
I understand. Our second campus is the home of the Deltaville Ballpark and DCA Annex. The ballpark operates between April and October for scheduled public events. And over that period of time, we host over 80 games, often 5 nights a week. Users of the park include the Deltaville Deltas League 241, which is a youth development league, and Middlesex Little League. Other programs, concerts, and events intermittently use the facility. And this year we re-inaugurated the tradition of the Independence Day fireworks, of course, at no charge to the public. The Annex building houses the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary and the Rappahannock River Railroaders Model Railroad Club. Both of these organizations also regularly host fun and educational events for the community, throughout the entire U. This campus is a location of the second of the two dumpsters. Middlesex County has a long tradition of supporting non-governmental organizations that provide services and amenities to the citizens of Middlesex that the county does not directly provide. Those contributions include a $47,500 annually to the YMCA, $37,000 to the sports complex, $42,000 to the museums of Middlesex and Middlesex Museum. And the cost of these two dumpsters is $2,795 annually. The DCA is the only community park of its kind east of Locust Hill. We hope you will agree that while located on non-county property, these two dumpsters are essential to the operation of these public use facilities and which will benefit all citizens of Air County. Thank you. And again, I request that if we can have this letter, which you have, be put in archive for future reference if needed.
Thank you, Randy and Beth, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I do have a contract file that I can keep a copy of that in as well.
Thank you. Who else would like to address the board at this time? Anyone else? I'll close the public comment period. And we'll move on to the constitutional officers, treasurer, who's with us, and congratulations. You have any comments for us? The report's in your packet, the Commissioner of Revenue, congratulations, May. Her report is also in the package. Do you have any comments you'd like to address today? Okay. Great. Agency and staff reports. VDOT is report only in your packet, pages 46 through 48. And school matters, Dr. Seitz.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Thank you. And you have an appropriation request in your packet. I'll review those items and then I wanted to give you an update on where we are in our CIP projects also. So the appropriation request, the first piece of it has to do with tuition for a student we have in a William and Mary cohort that runs through us, because the way the cohort is that Richmond County is the fiscal agent. And that's how the billing works. I can explain that more if that doesn't make any sense. Second piece on vocational equipment. This is the actual CTE equipment allocation from the state. When we do the budget in the spring, we don't have the exact number. And so we go with somewhat of an estimate. It's typically around the same every year. And then about this time of year after usually not probably this late, but since the state budget was finalized so late, it's now that we're coming to you with that to have that actual amount appropriated. Happy to answer any questions about either of those.
Questions? We have a motion for the appropriation request.
So moved. I'll second it.
This is form this FY 2024-18. Any motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Jesse. Any further discussion? Have roll call, please.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Aye. Motion carries.
All right.
Thank you.
And if I may provide you an update on where we are with our CIP projects for FY 24. We had two items in there that you all approved in this budget for a total of 1.1 million. The MES roof restoration project, and that is about to be completed by the end of this week or first of next week. And we will also be starting the MES LED lighting upgrade. What I wanted to bring to your attention is that the lighting upgrade project came in over what we requested in the budget for the CIP. However, the roof project came in significantly under what we had requested. And so we're planning to move forward with both of those projects, still with a savings of just over $200,000 to the county in the FY 24 CIP budget that was approved for us.
Need to do more roofing projects.
Right. That was a pleasant surprise
Yeah.
for us.
So the net will be zero to the county for what we've already approved. Is that what I hear you saying?
We will not use all of the money that you approved for us for
That-
CIP project for FY 24. Yes,
That sounds better. Thank you.
yes. Happy to bring you that update.
We like hearing it.
All right, any other questions? I knew I couldn't get it.
I was,
There it goes.
I was waiting for you to turn, so
I
which
wait.
normally I do,
I
and then have to bring you back to the podium. Would you give us a short update of where we stand with the approved additional parking at the elementary school?
Yes, and I have an update hot off the presses on that. DEQ did come back and request some more updates in the packet that they just reviewed. When I touched base with Bay Design, they've already made those adjustments and they are resubmitting the project plan once again, but they do expect this will be the last and final time that they have to submit it.
And would you review with me again for my memory purposes? That money that was approved and or grant was has to be completed by June of 24. Am I correct?
September of 2024 is when all the funds have to be expended and the
Okay.
project's supposed to be completed in the spring. We're still on schedule for that.
Great. Thank you for the update.
You're welcome.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Dave. You're up for planning update, please.
Matt, can you bring up that part of the packet? It's smart scale time again for us. I've got my one of our clerks back here, he's very familiar with it, so if I butcher some of this, he can step up and fix it. But anyway, so smart scale is 100% funded by VDOT unless we decide to put in extra money. Last time we submitted 5 applications. 2 of them got funded. We have 1 funded at the intersection of Regent Point Road and 33. That would be an intersection improvement. And we also have a one that we submitted at Stampers Bay Road and Twigs Ferry Road, Route 3. So VDOT's changed things up a little bit. I attribute it to some of their staffing issues. Last year, they allowed the PDC to submit an application on behalf of the locality. That's changed somewhat. The PDC can now only submit large scale projects, which we don't have anything that we're looking at really large scale. This would be a holistic improvement. So that particular application is taken off the table. They've also limited us to 3 applications. So that's all that they'll help us with. So that effectively reduces that by 2. So being that we, last time we identified the Town Bridge Road project as having significant issues with traffic getting in and out of town. We have Urbana Road, which is fine, but a lot of times when you have traffic, you'll have, somebody coming in by Town Bridge Road. So in this application, what I would suggest is that we stick with any improvements on Town Bridge Road. If you look at the, I'm just going to get off that subject a little bit. If you look, this is our county map. You can see that this is the district, and it shows all those magenta areas represent what they call a V-Trans need. So there's not any need. You can submit, but it'll immediately be screened out. If it doesn't meet a V-Trans need, then there's no sense in submitting anything in that area, because a V-Trans need indicates some type of improvement needed, safety, intersection, something of that nature. So you can see 17 has V-Trans needs, but they're all in little segments. So if you look at, go to the next slide. There's different ones. These are all identified. This is what I would suggest that we focus on, since we focused on it last time, and we do have one that's funded. we've also actually got this in one of our studies, is Route 3 in Triggs Ferry Road. Seems to be a high propensity of accidents on that road. Stampers Bay Road in the intersection with Twiggs Ferry is pretty bad too. So if we can dovetail some improvements with the previously funded application, I recommend that we try to stick with something along Route 3 in the Stampers Bay. That would be one application. The second application or the original one, really, these are all different. All of these meet V-Trans needs. We can just slide through these. We can queue these up. These are going to have lesser needs. These are mostly traffic congestion needs in town here in Saluda. Let's see, there should be another one. There's north end. That's a little segment coming into Hamburg. Harmony Village, there's a little segment past Route 3. All these meet, they're usually safety needs, or they call them segment improvements. Here's another one right there at the Wild Goose, and they have a few accidents there. We can queue these up, but we're only going to get help for 3 from VDOT. So my recommendations are to stick with Twiggs Ferry Road, stick with Town Bridge Road, and if we do Route 17, in the intersection of Town Bridge Road, we might get some Town Bridge Road improvements that extend past the intersection and on inward to Town Bridge Road. That's my recommendation. I don't know if the board has any other ideas for that. We can queue these other, we can put them in the pre-scoping module, some of these other projects. And as we complete these other projects, we can try to work on some of the ones that are, have a lesser need. Does anybody have any questions on it? Smart Scale is a little difficult to wrap your arms around. It's a little confusing.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would like to say that Town Bridge Road 17, what are they planning on to do in front of that?
Well, if you go, Matt, can you go back to?
Well, the one, are they gonna do
I
a
think-
turnaround or something there? Or, I mean,
Well, that they have to decide what they need, what the solution would be. They have different solutions for different issues. So they would further evaluate what the issue is. And then they would design a solution to accommodate that particular issue. So when I talk to VDOT, the possibility exists if we get some intersection improvement at Town Bridge, we might not get all of Town Bridge Road, but we can maybe get a section. They would probably incorporate some, extend the improvement into Town Bridge some, that further where we can take Town Bridge in segments and try to get Town Bridge done holistically. There's not an identified need necessarily on Town Bridge as you get towards Route 17. That there's no V-Trans need there. So at this time, all we could get was some intersection improvements. And whenever they do intersection improvements, they taper those back into the roads section, some distance back into it to taper it, to try to get it to work its way into it.
yeah,
Hey, Dave, I got one question. One question on Virginia Street. That ties in Town Bridge Road, if I'm looking at it right.
That's correct. Yeah, that would.
Okay, then when Beth Page did some their development on it, I thought this was supposed to be doing something at that intersection right there. I haven't seen anything done.
Yeah,
Right at that intersection of Town Bridge Road and Virginia Street.
that's correct. That would have to be in court. That's their responsibility.
So is the money from VDOT? How are they doing that? Is VDOT paying for the Beth Page?
No, well, Beth Page would do the intersection only, the radii at the intersection. VDOT would, through Smart Scale funding, would take the road section and improvements back towards Route 17. Because the proffer only dictated that Beth Page rework that intersection, not the approach coming into it necessarily.
What is the cost that Smart Scale is money-wise? In other words, how much money is Smart Scale putting on that road to complete what they need to do?
That I don't have those figures yet.
So if the intersection is done by Beth Page, then is Smart Scale figuring their money on identical same thing? And if it is, they can spend some on 619. But I'm just wondering how they, doing the money thing there.
Those are money set aside for this purpose by the state, the whole, this is how they fund projects statewide. So it's, they would have to separate that cost from Bethpage, because that's not VDOT's responsibility for that
Okay.
intersection. But they would be able to pick up where Bethpage stops and carry it back towards Route 17. You can see the V-Trans need goes back to at least Urbana Creek right now.
So in other words, waiting on smart scale, haven't really done anything yet. They're waiting on, I guess, Bethpage, but evidently because they haven't put no money in place of the project, it makes it very interesting because, money attract what you're going to do.
Well, this project was submitted last time, and it was not selected for certain reasons. I think mainly cost, but we want to stay on it. So I think at the time it didn't even have a V-Trans need, but now it does. So they've identified some need in that section.
Are they going to take that curb out where you go down the hill on Tom Breeze Road going out to 17? I think with some girls years ago on the volleyball team had an accident. The sharp curve just before you go down the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Are they doing anything there?
Nothing's planned there yet. You have to remember, this is almost as if it's a grant, so you'd have to, it has to be funded. So we're not in that conversation yet as to how the geometry reconfiguration would come about.
Okay, you gave me an idea.
That's further down the road. We're just trying, this is a very preliminary step in this. This is entry into the portal for consideration. So we're trying to meet deadlines to keep things going.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Kretz, what do we have to do for you today?
I don't even, a consensus, I guess, is good. Just that we.
Yeah, I would think a consensus based on the planning director's recommendation would be in order.
Okay.
One quick comment though, Dave, if my memory serves, last year on Stampers Bay, and I'm trying to go back to it, I don't have my little table of contents I can click on. But right here at Stampers Bay and Twigs Ferry is where VDOT plans to do the traffic circle. Is that correct?
Correct. That's one that's funded.
Okay. And do you get a sense from any conversations you have with them that they'd want to do something similar out on Route 33?
We've had some conversations with Lee that they have some funding money outside of this, that they may have some interest in the intersection of 33 and 3 at that point.
Once you get used to them, they are an efficient way to move traffic. So,
and I believe Matthews submitted intersection improvements at 198 and Route 3 there in Dutton. And I think they planned the traffic circle for that. So the two traffic circles would kind of tie in together. They work well because they're traffic calming. I think, I don't know, Route 3 is a weird, if you've ever driven it, at night, it's a mesmerizing road, long sweeping curves, and people tend to, I don't know, I think, in my opinion, I think it has more, a lot of needs in this county. It's probably one of the most unsafe roads I think there is in the county for the amount of traffic we get. So, my opinion, anybody who's driven it at night and, frequently probably agrees. So.
Hey Dave, it's a small road, all right, there, Route 3. Hey Matt, how about go back to Stampers Bay a minute? Are we talking about a traffic circle, or we just talking about what are we talking about right there? We got a straight line.
Well, right now, that's where they identify V-Trans need. But in the last session, we submitted a smart scale application for intersection improvements at Stampers Bay Road and Twigs Ferry Road. So that's already been screened in and funded. So that's going
already
forward.
funded.
So, yeah. So these improvements would kind of tag along with the recent submittals that we have. I'd say let's try to focus on certain roads and let's try to get those done. And as things come along, we can always queue up some other ones, but we probably want to focus on these main highways and intersections that have issues. So.
Yes, Reggie. And if you notice where I've got my arrow on the screen, that's roughly where they're planning the traffic circle.
And,
at
and
the intersection of Stampers Bay and Twigs Ferry Road.
is that right after you pass the, fire station?
No, it's further down than that.
Oh,
Here,
I
I'll
know,
tell
I
you
know what
what,
you're talking about, I think. Just before you get to Doc Jones,
It would be
a little
after,
bit down from that.
a little bit after Doc Jones's, I believe.
going
Y'all have
down to
encouraged me enough. I'm
198.
pulling up Google Earth.
Because I know you got a lot of traffic on that road. I'm just trying to place the traffic circle in there, already got approved and funded, so I can kind of like see it. And not that you don't need it, I'm just making sure I understand exactly, you know, what's what, you know.
So real quick, Reggie, the firehouse in Hartfield's right here. This is Stampers Bay, the cut through road over to Twigs Ferry. And then Stampers Bay comes on down to Camp Bianchi.
I got
This
you.
is where they're thinking about the traffic circle right here
I
at that
got you.
intersection.
That shortcut road going to Route 3.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. I got you.
It surprised me when they decided to do that, but it makes sense.
Yeah, it would,
Yeah.
I think it would be effective.
And it may not be a bad idea to think about over here on Route 33 and Stampers Bay too for the
Well, that
same
has
thing.
to be trans need, so we can
Mhm.
look at that in the future as
Yep.
well, so we can start looking at that.
And just for, I guess, information purposes, when we were discussing with VDOT, the multi-purpose paths in Deltaville and the potential of go ahead and widening and improving Route 33 all the way down to Stingray Point, we had mentioned the possibility of a number of traffic circles down there as a traffic calming measure too. So, you know, we're kind of staying on top of that and continuing to look at it, but they haven't identified that need down at Stingray
No,
Point yet.
there are none, no, there are
Correct.
not trans needs.
I see exactly what you're talking about now.
If there are no more questions, let me just poll the board whether you support Dave's priority of the 3 to submit. Wayne?
No, yeah, I support that. Yeah.
Don?
As well.
Reggie?
Yes.
I do, so
All right,
good to go.
we'll submit them.
Thank you. All right, Kurt. Kurt Smith is going to address the MPPDC dredging projects update. It's pages 65 through 74 in your packet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
back.
members of the board. Good afternoon. Here today to discuss the draft service agreement that's in your packet related to Broad Creek. But before I jump into that, I wanted to kind of give you the big picture of what we're working on with regards to dredging for the county, because I know there's a lot of moving pieces. So we are under contract with the county to work on Whiting Creek, designing a dredging project. We're not actually doing any dredging, but we're going to have a shovel-ready project queued up there. We've kicked that project off and are hoping to complete that sometime in 2024. We are also under contract for a full dredging project at Broad Creek. That includes the federal portion, which is really running out into the river all the way to the mouth of the creek, as well as the non-federal portions of the channel on the interior. I was here back in June, I believe it was, to talk to you all about that. And so we are under contract for that. Between that time and now, as you all are probably aware, there's been some extreme shoaling that's occurred out in the portions of the channel in the river, approaching in the entrance to the creek in the channel there. And there's been a number of instances where people have run aground, become completely shoaled there, and had to be your marina owners have done a great job of actually pulling people off of these shoals and ensuring that nobody gets hurt. But it has come to the point where it's a public safety hazard, and your marina operators are getting a lot of reports where a lot of the larger boats especially are just avoiding Broad Creek altogether. And you all know how important that creek is to the marine commerce and industry in the county and the region. So what you're looking at there is the Army Corps bathymetric survey. Red is bad, green is good. Green's deeper water, and you can see the black lines there indicate the federal channel footprint. So you can see those shoals really encroaching into the channel, and this is where people are running aground, right about where Matt has his cursor there. But when these reports of people getting stuck out there and potentially getting hurt started to come in, the county came to us, and we started working with you all to figure out what could be done as soon as possible. We went to the Corps. They were gracious in kind of reshuffling their schedule to get this bathymetric survey done sooner than it was planned for, so that you all had the information you needed to be able to figure out what to do. The Coast Guard indicated that moving the aids to navigation channel markers was not going to be a quick or easy option that's needed for this kind of emergency condition. And the Army Corps did not have funding readily available to take care of this sooner than later. And with regards to the grant funds that we have for what I'll call the larger project that we're under contract with you all for, the likelihood of us being able to get out there, over the course of the next couple of months is very low or almost impossible for getting a large project pulled together and in a manner that could take care of this in an expedited way. So what the county has asked me to bring here today is a service agreement for what we'll call emergency surgical dredging. This would be to take this information, showing where the shoals are, pinpointing exactly where a smaller amount of sediment could be removed from these areas to make them more immediately safe and viable from a economic standpoint, so that further damage isn't done before we can come back for the larger project. And so that's what's in your packet. There is a service agreement similar to what you all have seen from us in the past. Essentially, the way this would work would be, since we're already under contract with you all for the larger project, we would essentially put that on hold, shift gears and work on this contract to get that channel cleared out as quickly as possible before going back and working on the larger project. The cost estimates that are pulled up there, since we don't know exactly, the volume of sediment, the type of sediment, the basic information you need to know to apply for a permit to do this emergency work, the steps are actually very similar to the larger project. You still have to go out there. We've got the bathymetric survey in place. This can be used to calculate the volumes. Once you all pinpoint and tell us we want to dredge these specific locations. and so the design can be done fairly quickly. We would need to get somebody out there to sample those sediments, because you've got to know what kind of sediment it is before they'll give you a permit to remove it. But a lot of the steps that we would be taking, pre-construction steps for the emergency project, would have benefit and save you funding on the larger project. We wouldn't have to go back and sample those same areas, if that makes sense. So that's factored into the cost estimates we pulled in here. Since we don't know the volume, the amount, things like that, we had to use other projects as proxies for these estimates, but it's set up in a manner where, it's going to be capped at a certain amount and we'll bill at actual. up until then. And of course, we'll have to put it out to bid and in the hopes that we could have this thing cleared up and you know, as soon as we can get a permit to get out there and do it. It might be a volume small enough where it's a hydraulic dredge is not needed. Somebody might be able to get out there and mechanically dig the material out. We've talked about, we know the county's disposal basin there at Deltaville is empty. So that would be the strategy, is just move that material directly out of the channel and the quickest solution as possible and get it into the disposal area there. Happy to answer any questions, but that is that's what we proposed here.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I know it's a guesstimate on the cost, something like that, right? And Matt, how much do we have in the dredging fund? I know we have a dredging fund.
I was waiting for the question. We have $1 million set aside this year in the dredging fund for dredging projects.
I know we had put money aside over
Yeah.
the years for something like this. Something happened.
And we emphasized the need to not spend the money that has already been committed to the other projects. We don't want to compromise the other projects that we're already under contract for with this additional funding. So Matt was well aware of that from the get-go.
One of the things that we've discussed in meetings with the PDC is the desire to try to find a holistic solution that can get us longer periods between dredges. You know, you can kind of make out the area on Google Earth where we're having the bulk of the problem. It's right there. And being able to find a longer term solution that could keep that channel open for longer periods of time is to me money well spent.
And also, Kurt, well, I know, you know, in the PDC, we had talked about the dredge that, when was that gonna be implemented where, you know, it's gonna be going from place to place?
As soon as you know, that the last General Assembly budget that was most recently adopted, there was language originally in there which did not make the final version, which would have, I'll use the word mechanically, let the $5 million move from Richmond to the Middle Peninsula to buy the dredge. So the money is still there. But we have to wait until the next General Assembly session to go back and get that specific language in there. We need to move the money from Richmond to here. And so it's a technicality that we're caught up on. Okay. So we were, but
I know it was in the motion.
that is a
of
top-
getting it done.
top priority.
Right, okay.
I just got one question. I noticed you used the term smaller and larger projects. If we do the smaller project first, are we gonna run right into the larger project right behind it? Because you did say that by us using the smaller project, that will save us money doing the larger project. And you said something about putting it on hold on the larger project. So if they're tying together and you say it'll be cheaper, are we gonna wait for the larger project, or we just gonna do the smaller project right now?
Well, we are, the idea is we will still do the larger project, but because you have these emergent shoals that are creating this public safety hazard in the channel, the idea is to go out and almost surgically remove those as quickly as possible. So we obviously, unless, you know, between now and what I've been calling the larger project, when that occurs, if more sand moves into this area after the surgical dredging, then of course we'll need to dredge that again as well. But the idea is we surgically remove it and then focus on the rest of the channel for the larger project.
So if I'm looking through these documents, we're talking about looking at a $65,000 expense for us to determine what exactly needs to happen with the shoaling part of this project, pre-project, let's say. Is that correct?
We would, yes, we would begin hiring somebody to do the actual design, draft,
Right.
develop the draft permit application and get that submitted as soon as possible. Yes, sir.
And this agreement says not to exceed 65,000, otherwise the contractor will be responsible for that. Is that
That would be the county. Yes, yes.
okay?
So by our best estimate, we don't anticipate the cost going above that amount based off what it's cost with other projects, but
And then based on whatever that information is that comes back forward to us is how we want to proceed
yes, sir.
on that part of the project.
Yes, sir. We would put this out to bid essentially as a design build. To get the maximum cost savings, bundle it all together.
At which time it's coming back for us to approve that bid. Is that correct?
We can handle it however you all would like. Yes, sir.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks for jumping on this, Kurt. For those who are not familiar with this, the shoaling has not only caused our visitors and residents to have problems getting in and out of Broad Creek, but it has actually curtailed visits. The reputation has spread through various marine social media sites that you don't want to go to Broad Creek because you can't get in and out. You see the narrow channel that is about 7 feet deep. You can imagine a 15 or 20 foot wide catamaran coming out, another vessel going in. There just isn't enough room for them to even pass in deep enough water without running aground. That's a problem we're running into, and that's what has created this as an emergency situation, because we literally are losing tourists and visitors at our marines in Broad Creek. So thank you for jumping on this.
And one other thing I'll point out too is because you would be using your own money, you can dredge inside or outside those black lines. With the federal money historically, they can only dredge inside those black lines. So you have a little more autonomy in terms of how you could manage the problem. You could go a little bit beyond the black lines, outside the black lines, which would essentially buy yourself more time for that shoal to move back before that shoal could move back in. So.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the engagement with MPVDC.
I so move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jesse, second by Mr. Harris. Any more discussion?
I'll just add, Mr. Chairman, it would be staff's intention to pull monies from the dredging fund to pay for the project.
All right, and we have a roll call, please.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Kimbrough,
Yes. Motion carries. Thanks very much, Bert.
Thank you all very much.
I inadvertently skipped over item 4C, social services, which is report only in the packet. Next item on our agenda is the county engineer update. Charlie, welcome back.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good to see you again. Very quickly, I'm just going to do a quick overview of what you have in your packet with regards to my report. There's 3 items that I'd like to expound on. One is the first item of Hummel Field. If you're looking and going through the description there, what we've done, I've talked with Parish and Partners this morning. We put together a scope of work associated with the revised ALP, which basically describes what the county's intent is with regards to that construction project and expansion. The reason we're doing this, we're submitting it to Virginia Department of Aviation so that they have something on file, on record, if you will, that allows them to look at what we're doing and what we're proposing, so that they have a better feel for when we apply for funding, then they can apply it to those certain areas, whether it's taxi evasion, terminal fuel facilities, or hangars. So that was one update with regards to the airport. Another update is on the wastewater project for the county in the town of Topping. You know, we've been going back and forth with this archaeological study, and we've actually contacted DHR and walked through the process that HRSD used with regards to only pursuing potential archaeological sites outside of the right of way. And we've identified two locations. One is the pumping station at Topping. The other is the routing for the gravity feed coming from the campground to the pump station. There's a third site, but it will not be for routing or piping. It will be where we will set up the launch and retrieval pits for jack and bore. So those are the only three areas that we have identified to DHR. We've sent them a letter along with a map book showing the routing of the piping and those locations that are outside of the right of the way. So we haven't heard back from them, but I anticipate before the next meeting we will. The third item I have as far as an update is on the county landfill. As you know, we're trying to close the landfill. In talking with ARM Resources, formerly International, we have submitted a plan to DEQ that outlines our approach. We have finished the quarterly testing for this year. So we're proposing now to shut everything down and sample once a year for the next 3 years. The downside is if we have levels that are above action levels, then we would reinstitute our program and turn the pumps back on. But right now, we're keeping our fingers crossed. So that was the third item that I had. I think it was pretty self-explanatory in my write-up. So any questions, comments, concerns?
Certainly, we always have questions.
Why you think I'm still standing here?
Under number 2, wastewater project quarterly update. It appears that HRSD engineer Bowman has requested a change order to extend services.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And maybe you can explain the next one, next sentence, county working with HRSD to evaluate content and cost.
Yes, sir. Bowman is under contract to HRSD, so HRSD has to justify that cost. HRSD right now cannot justify that cost, neither can I. So that is why that sentence, we're evaluating the content and cost to see what they're charging for and why. The project's been on hold for the last 2.5 months. So there's been no work going on. And I'm thinking there's money. In fact, I've already talked with Bowman, told them there's money in this change order to cover that time that they haven't been working. So they need to revise their change order.
Absolutely. And how is that the county's problem on whatever cost may be generated since they wanted to contract and that they're not meeting their obligations?
Well, the county's paying for the project. So anything that HRSD has to be approved by the county. I approve requisitions, monthly requisitions that include HRSD invoices as well as Bowman invoices.
Okay, I get that we have some contractual responsibility for that. However, if the delay is a result of increased cost, why does the county have to be on the hook for that?
That's the question I've asked HRSD. They
And
should be eating this change order from Bowman. That's the county's position.
that won't change.
Agreed.
Okay, good. Just making sure we're all on the same song sheet.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Next agenda item is citizen appointments. This is report on pages 78 through 80. We don't have any new appointments this month. Is that correct?
That's correct. We don't have citizen appointments, but we do have, do y'all want my picture to be shown? I don't know if that works. But we do have some board appointments that are required. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes.
I'll keep going. We had an issue come up with the Middle Peninsula Chesapeake Bay Public Access Authority that we needed to have an appointee. And because apparently we had Mark Longest and Dave Kretz, and we needed to have a board member and Dave Kretz. So anyway, what we're asking for today is that Matt Walker be designated the primary and Dave Kretz as an alternate to the Middle Peninsula Chesapeake Bay Public Access Authority. And removing Mark as the alternate. That's an extremely important thing to do. Then the other thing is the Broadband Authority. With the departure of I've already forgot his Mr. Kuntz's name. With the departure of John Kuntz, we do need a board member, a board of supervisors appointee, one of the 5 members of the board, Broadband Authority. It was John Kuntz, and I believe that Mr. Jesse had expressed interest in the past, and we did like to have, if you all had nobody else interested, we'd like to have Mr. Jesse appointed to the Broadband Authority. And those are the 2 items.
So we need 2 different motions here. We can do it all in one motion.
I think it can all be done in one.
And if I may just add, that just leaves the Keep Middlesex Beautiful and the jail board appointments for the board to consider.
Quick question, Anne Marie, is, on the Social Services Advisory Board I see that, Ms. Cardwell is not eligible. Are they going to provide somebody particular and or for the, Community Services Board where Dr. Pirock is not eligible again? Are they going to provide some sort of names for us, or how does that work?
I can reach out to them. I've not asked them to do so. I will happily reach out to them and see if, otherwise they could ask me to put it on Facebook and maybe we'll get some interest that way. But I'll see if they can find some.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
So what do we need to do? A motion for,
If you look on page 78 of your packet, there is some staff recommended action at the bottom of that memo.
okay. I was looking at the chart.
Where it says approve the appointment of.
You on the right page?
Yeah, at the bottom of that page.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll make the motion to approve the appointment of Wayne Jesse to the Broadband Authority, approve the appointment of Matt Walker as primary and Dave Kretz as alternate to the Middle Peninsula Chesapeake Bay Public Access Authority, and remove Mark Longest as the alternative.
Second.
By Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Williams. Any further discussion? Have roll call, please.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Aye. Motion carries.
And I'm not aware of how much the jail board will be meeting for the rest of the year. It's my understanding they meet monthly, but it being the holiday season, I don't know the immediacy of the need for the jail board appointment unless there's a board member present here today that wants to serve for a while. That one could wait.
I'd recommend we hold on that. Maybe discuss it at the December meeting, and certainly by the January meeting with when we have everybody here, maybe that would be a more prudent time to do that.
That sounds good to me.
That sounds good to me.
All right.
Next.
Anne Marie, you've got the next item.
I do. Number 5 looks like it's all about me. The next item, item B, represents the request to approve an agreement with GFL for dumpster and solid waste collection at the 22 sites that were located in the appendix there. The total amount like $30,617 per year plus CPI. I say it's number 1, subject to appropriation, but it's also subject to changes. For example, during the year, we find out that somebody's having an event, maybe at at a fire station and they need a separate pickup. So it will be, that's how we would work with them. I did reach out, as you heard earlier, from the DCA. As part of my due diligence on this list, I reached out to every site to confirm that the frequency of pickup was correct. So for example, I reached out to the schools to make sure that those were correct. Obviously, shelters. So we did confirm that this was the size, quantity, and frequencies. But again, it may change just because life changes. Anyway, at this time, we do request that the board approve a 3-year contract. I do need to note, I got 3 from 3 different agents, Ambrose and Republic and GFL, who was our current contract, was the lowest bidder. So at this point, I just ask that you approve the contract.
I'll make a motion that we approve the solid waste collection agreement with the 22 stated sites that we already have.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Williams. Any further discussion?
Yes, I just got one question for clarification. I noticed you got the ballpark is seasonal and the adjustments as needed. And I noticed on the other report that it was like $2,700 roughly because the DCA came in and spoke today. And it seems like to me, maybe a misunderstanding when it will be seasonal and we would need the dumpsters there at that particular time. And I see this, Ms. Anne Marie was doing a good job of saying, you know, if it's not there, we shouldn't have to pay for it. So, you know, just for clarification, I just wanted to say that. So it really won't that big a deal.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Have roll call, please.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough,
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, Anne Marie, you're on a roll here.
Great, thank you. This I rejected last year. So I'll start off on the negative note. At this time, I'm asking you to consider, the board, to consider approval of a contract in the amount of just under $152,000 to a company called KNC Construction, doing business as Tennis Court Inc., to construct a combination basketball pickleball court. Last year, I brought this forth to you as simply a basketball court. And the board at the time decided that because we'd only budgeted $45,000, we're well over that amount, we decided to not do it at that time. Pause, regroup. I decided to take one more shot at it and went out for bid. This time adding, though, the painting of the courts, making them pickle well. And we did modify down goals. Remember, the goals were really expensive, so we modified those down. But only 2 bids. We sent this out via EVA. We sent this out to all 4 former bidders, as well as another couple of people that I'd found on the internet. Bids, the low bid was $164,000, and then I negotiated it back down to $151,660. And at this time, I want to know whether or not we wish to proceed with this basketball court in the amount of just under $152,000. With my suggested funding at this point would be to transfer it from fund to balance, but I'll leave that up to what the board's recommendation would prefer at this time.
So what you need, a motion?
Yes, to approve the contract. Oh,
So move.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Jesse. Discussion.
Anne Marie, can you hear me? Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question. That maybe you can elaborate on. We are still discussing the St. Clair Walker cafeteria building. Does this project that we're about to vote on, does that have any application of, where the basketball court would go or not go based on what we may in the future do or not do with that building,
RCE, but
the RCE building.
I was not considering the RCE building. When we did the diagram of that site, we worked on a diagram with the county engineer and the county, I don't know what Dave's blank, Dave Kretz.
Planning director.
Planning director, thank you. Worked out with them to design a potential layout, if you will, of what this look like. I wonder if I should, are y'all hearing me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And there is on that site, aside from, as you indicated, the RCE building, which we have, we've got a little funding in this year's budget to fix the roof there. I have money in the budget this year to do the playground. Remember the $250,000 Buddy Park? So we have money for that. And then this project was the third part of that little project happening right there in that area. Oh, I see Matt's going to pull up the area. So it does not affect it. The only thing I will say is that I worked with Dave and Charlie I think it might have been several weeks ago, to see whether or not I could swap locations of the basketball court and the kiddie park. Yeah, right where Matt is now. The basketball court, Matt, is right there. And then the kiddie park is going to be right there. I was talking about swapping them. The animal shelter has talked about preferring to have the basketball not played so close to their dog park. So we'll work with that. The vendor didn't seem to think the contractor did not think that was a problem at all.
And where would potential parking go for people that would come to either one of those two locations?
Parking along the roadway. Yep, right along there. They park up to and even up the driveway to the skate park. So Matt, there they park in that driveway and where the skate park is. They can't get into the skate park. Obviously, they can't, blocked off, but they park in that driveway there. As the development grows with the Puller Center, that roadway will probably be enhanced for better parking.
Okay.
And you do know, so Matt, would you show how this does not impact the RCE building at all? Yeah. Building. And then the RCE building.
And this may be a good segue, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'll pull up the budget. The board's aware, we had budgeted $320,000 for the Rappahannock Central Elementary School building and also $250,000 for Buddy Park. Originally, Parks and Rec had $130,000 in capital improvements projects in their operations budget, and we bumped that down for that purpose because it's over $50,000. I would recommend, as opposed to fund balance, we find money or funds for the basketball pickleball court either within the Rappahannock Central Elementary School repair and reno budget, which will not be expended by June 30th, I'm imagining, because we've got a little bit of design and planning and discussion to do on that project, and or from the Buddy Park, $250,000. Just as Anne Marie will tell you, we've been lucky to receive a number of grants for the Buddy Park, one of them from RCCF, I believe, and I believe there's a separate or a match to that from Kiwanis and Rotary. Am I correct on that, Anne Marie?
Nothing from the Rotary, just the Kiwanis.
Just the Kiwanis. So the Kiwanis has chipped in on that. So I'm satisfied between the two projects, we can find the funding through a transfer within the existing appropriated capital improvements budget. So we will not need to bring in money from fund balance. Right. And that would mean we'll probably be discussing Rappahannock Central Elementary repair in this budget coming up for fiscal year 25. Yep.
Good question. Any comments?
So to that end, that would simply change that motion. If the board chose to do that, it would be with funding to be transferred from the RCE project. So that's how that would change the motion there, the recommended action.
That's good. I would just comment that I know at the DCA in Deltaville, the basketball court is busy most of the time, and the pickleball court is busy most of the time. They're very popular attractions, and I think that we would see that we'll have to figure out the appropriate hours for one versus the other, because
Right.
there's going to be a lot of demand, I think, and that's a good thing. Get people outside. So.
Are we calling for the vote? Is that what's next?
Mr. Williams, would you be agreeable to amending your motion to say that it's, the funding will come from the RCE project?
Yes, I would, the minute that it'll come from the RC project on the motion.
Is there a second to that amendment?
And I'll second.
Thank you.
This amendment.
Thanks for catching.
A roll call vote, please.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough,
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Anne Marie, you're still on.
Good, good. The next two items, let me verify, I've got my right items up. The next two items are budget supplement requests. Both of these are grants. The first one is a automatic grant. Basically, we were given an allocated amount. This is the amount that you get. And here it goes to David Lehman to expend for certain radiological preparedness. So it's another emergency preparedness grant. So at this time, staff recommends that we accept.
I hear a motion.
Yeah, I'll
So
make
moved.
that we approve the FY
Right.
2024-15.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jesse, second by Mr. Williams. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Kimbrough,
Yes. Motion carries. And next is the 2024-16.
Thank you. 2024-16 is again another as a grant received by the dispatchers, by the Eileen Cole of the dispatching department. What this is this is allowing for a recognition program, and each of them will get a certain amount. They were approved for this grant. It was to it's called the Staffing Recognition Project. And at this time, if we can grant this, we will be able to pay it out in the November pay stubs. So we ask for approval of the 2024-16, which appropriates the Staffing Recognition Grant. As a reminder, we do require, if we get money in, even if it's a gift, we still have to, the board still has to accept it and appropriate it. And that's what we're doing now. So we were given this money, but the board has to accept and appropriate it.
I'll make the motion. FY 2024-16 budget supplement request form.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jesse. Second by Mr. Harris. Any further discussion?
I just got a question. Is this grant money is going to be every year? This just a one-time thing?
Time.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Thank you. May we have a roll call, please, Shanae?
yes. Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough,
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Anne Marie.
Thank you.
Right, administrator updates. Over to you, Matt.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna need a couple of minutes tonight because there's a couple of things to present. What I'd like to start with is the draft budget calendar that's in your packet. We have emulated a lot of the budget calendar from last year, updated the dates and times, but there's a couple of key changes to the budget calendar that I wanted to bring to the board's attention. Again, this is very similar in dates and times to the budget calendar that was adopted last year. If the board will recall, this expedited the budget process pretty seamlessly, and I think kind of elegantly, if I could use the word, matched up with the schools and got our budget adopted earlier than normally. And that was a great benefit to the treasurer and commissioner of revenue, getting the bills out and you know, getting that timing down. One specific adjustment to the budget calendar that I want to address is this year on Friday the 2nd. And again, this is a draft. The board has final say on this. You could approve it in December and or at the January organizational meeting. It does assume that the regular meeting dates and times pretty much stay the same, avoiding the usual holidays. Make that caveat real quick. But back to the Friday, February the 2nd meeting, this is normally the time when we have agencies, organizations, and departments come in and make their budget request to the board. As the board's familiar, it's an all-day affair. We had a meeting with our sheriff on Monday, and we have scheduled tentatively, pending the board's approval, a time of 3:30 on Friday, February the 2nd, for Sheriff Bushy and his budget team to come in and sit down with the Board of Supervisors for about an hour to discuss details regarding their budget and their requests. And by extrapolation, we usually have Rebecca Morgan with the Department of Social Services come in the same day. We'll probably schedule her for the 2:30 time slot to have a similar type of work session. Again, as the board's aware and our school folks are here, we have a joint work session with the school board that's usually held. Had some preliminary conversations with our superintendent, and this schedule seems to align well with the school's draft budget calendar. I think they're going to be approving in the next couple of months. Is that correct, Tracy? They're going to approve their calendar at Monday's meeting. So I wanted to provide a draft to the board for your review, and for not looking for any motion on it tonight. Simply just want to get it in front of you to get those dates and times in your mind. And if you want to affect any changes to it, we can do that at the December meeting or adopt it, or just table the whole matter till January. Any questions or concerns on the budget calendar? I will make note of one thing. This budget calendar does impact some of the spring break timeframes, but so does our regular board meeting on April the 2nd. So it's really hard to avoid that. Okay.
Just to understand where we are on this, we could modify this the next board meeting.
Absolutely.
If need be, that gives everybody a chance to look through calendars.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is just a draft. This is your budget calendar, not mine. So make any changes or, feel free to contact Anne Marie or myself and we can discuss it. It does emulate the time frame we had in place last year. So should be somewhat familiar. Okay.
Good, thank you.
Moving on, the mayor of Urbana reached out to me over the last month and has informed me that the town of Urbana is choosing to discontinue their use of their more historic, traditional looking signs in preference of adopting the county standard. When the Board of Supervisors first adopted our 911 sign ordinance, I think back April 18th, 2000, it says, the town had already had a lot of their town signs in place and opted to continue to use those. This move by the town, I think, was driven by cost. I think the cost of the signs that they are currently using got to be a concern, and the number were missing and we're going to need replacing. According to the ordinance, if they do adopt the county standard, then county is responsible. Section 7 of the ordinance pretty much gets into that. Copy of it's in your packet. And moving down. Section 17 pretty much says that the town would need to adopt a resolution adopting the county standard and opting away from their, I'll call it variance from the E911 signed standard for the county. I've been discussing this with the mayor, discussed it with our 911 technician. We're looking at approximately 86 signs, plus or minus. At $66 a piece, we're looking at a cost of approximately $5,600. What I have communicated to the mayor is to do not take any signs down, leave all the signs up currently. We'll work together on getting a list of the signs that need to be replaced, and we'll go ahead and get those signs up so our emergency services personnel can track down streets and addresses. But leave the others up until we can holistically replace them over a given period of time, preferably during next budget year when I can budget that amount and come in and replace the signs. Just wanted to make the board aware of those conversations. It's my understanding, and I'm gonna look back to Larry, that the signs that Urbana is currently using are pushing a couple of $100s a piece. And that's part of some of the thought process about why they're just wanting to adopt a county standard. We are required to provide E911 signs, and with the number of our volunteers not being from here and maybe not knowing the streets as well as some of our local folks, it's always a good idea to have those signs uniform and recognized by our staff, and so they can find people when needed. So really, Mr. Chairman, I'm not looking for any kind of vote on that tonight. This is an FYI, man. Just let you know what staff's up to. And if you have any questions.
I got just one question. The signs that they have in the banner now, they don't work.
Well, they work
If you
fine,
can-
but they're a little expensive to replace. And I think the town has opted to go uniform with the county.
Okay. Okay, I got you. Okay.
And there may be more on this later, but I've had some preliminary conversations with the town on, well, what are we going to do with the old signs? Maybe we could, as we remove them, sell them, auction them off, and help cover some of the costs. But those discussions are ongoing. There's one sign in particular that I want, but you know, my days of trying to grab them nefariously are way over. So I'll wait for it to be sold, and maybe I'll put in a bid on that one.
All of the signs currently that the town has, are some of them compliant with the 911 street and some are not, or all of them going to have to be replaced over a period of time, or what do you know about that?
All of them are going to need to be replaced with the standard green and white signs to comply with like the county standard. Are they compliant? Yes, they meet 911 regulations. They're just not the same as the county sign. In fact, that is our intention, to replace these signs over time.
Well, I know there's some green and white signs out there, so are they compliant or not compliant?
Well, if they're green and white signs in the town, I would imagine they are compliant. Yeah. And I've asked the mayor to provide a list of the signs that are in need of immediate replacement. In fact, sometime between now and the holidays, which we're in the holidays now, our 911 tech, Glenn Nix, and I are going to be going out and probably hopping on a golf cart and riding around town to survey those locations, make sure we get them all down and get those signs ordered. The ones that need immediate erection. Any further questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, next item I had, in speaking with a couple of the board members, the board had asked me to take a look at maybe some of the historic trends regarding assessment. And I took a look at that, and I want to pull a spreadsheet up that addresses some of that and maybe make a revised recommendation for the board's consideration. Worked with a friend of mine down at Department of Tax, David C., on preparing this. He did a lot of this. In fact, he prepared this table for me, which shows historically where our assessment ratios had been when the county opted to reassess. The county has tried to remain on a consistent every 4-year, 5-year schedule. And as you can see, I'll just start and work my way down. In February 2010, we had an assessment ratio of 79%. But then we had a market swing, which adjusted that assessment ratio upwards without us having to reassess. In discussing this with a couple of board members, this would lead us to believe that maybe if market conditions turn around and the sales reinvigorate, we may have a similar bounce back. So we may not need to reassess next year until we get maybe June's report in to see where that assessment ratio is at based on some historical perspective. Like for instance, February 2010 to February 2011, you see the assessment ratio actually increased because of the sales data that came in that report. Now, it just so happens Essex County is seeking to reassess currently. And if we were to partner with Essex, as we have in the past with our regional reassessment, they could do a reassessment in 2025 or 2024 rather, and that would put us doing a reassessment in 2025 to be implemented in 2026, which would be in our normal 4-year window. In a sense, we'd still partner with Essex and move forward with engaging in that regional reassessment, but we would do our reassessment a year later, and that would afford us an opportunity to see what the June reassessment figures look for us. It may be that those the assessment ratio figures are more in line with the current market trends at the time, and we may not need to as urgently. And as you see, historically, our assessment ratio has been right at 100%, pretty much consistently, even before reassessment. What we've had in the last couple of years is what we've come to call black swan events that have affected market conditions that haven't been seen before, or if have been pretty extreme. So bottom line is we may be able to wait a year before we pull the trigger on reassessment. And that would be desirable because, we haven't had this one very long.
When you see here the date of the assessment to sale comparison, it's based on actual transactions. Are those transactions in the prior year, or is there a 1-year lag? And what makes me curious is the 2010 to 2011 followed the real estate crash that was it started in 2008, but it really hit bottom in 2009 and 10. So I'm just curious about the lag in numbers. Do you have any?
It's my understanding there is a lag. In fact, they used the most recent sales data communicated to them. I'm going to pull up another spreadsheet that shows that a little bit, if I may. Bear with me 1 second. Listen. So this is the last summary of the ratio study from 2022. Of course, our assessment was put in place on January 1st, 2022. So you have the number of sales, the assessed values of those sales, and the sales price. And then you have the median and weighted average of those sales. If one recommendation I would make to the board is by communicating and making sure the Department of Tax has this accurate information on the sales that take place in the county. That's one surefire way of keeping this assessment ratio very accurate because they look at the sales data, look at the assessed value, and look at what the selling prices are for that class of property. And you may wonder what these classes stand for. I'll pull this up so you can see. So class 1, for instance, single family residential urban. Those are probably units inside the town of Urbana, and maybe some that are located on water and sewer lines. And then you got single family suburban. That's largely our residential zoned areas, multifamily residential, commercial. A lot of this is pretty self-explanatory. And last, class 7 is exempt. So you get an idea of where our deviation comes from, which gives us our 78% based on the class and where it is in the ratio. The class that had, I guess, the largest swing only had one sale. So arguably, how much weight do you give that was large agricultural undeveloped land, which is class 6. Try to shrink that down so you can see it better.
Look, I mean,
But again, it's just one sale.
the only meaningful number of transactions is in the class 2.
Yep.
Right.
That's the vast majority of property that we have. That's going to include a lot of your waterfront properties. And you see, well, even though the difference may not be as much, the number of sales quite a bit higher. So that's exacerbated. The assessed value of $76 million, whereas the selling price of those properties is well over $100 million, coming in at 78%. So
for our ratio to get back in the neighborhood of 100%, essentially the market value of real estate would decline by 20%, right? To go from 100.
potentially, yes. And with the current interest rates and the economy and the uncertainty that exists out there in the world, it's not unlikely that we could see some property value decline. And that's kind of leading me to the recommendation, and maybe we wait until June to see what that ratio study looks like. In the meantime, we could potentially partner with Essex and get in line to fall in behind them, let them do their reassessment in 2024, and us be in a position to move and do ours in 2025. Again, it takes approximately a year to do the reassessment for it to go into effect, usually January 1, the following year. So if we did a reassessment in 2025, it would take effect January 1, 2026, or 4 years from the time we did the 2021.
So it's November of 2023.
Yep.
And what you're suggesting is that no impact would be realized by the county until January of 2026.
If we follow that time frame, yeah.
And that would require a 20% decline in real estate values in order to automatically get us to being in line. And that just seems very unrealistic.
I thought so too until I saw 2010 and 2011 numbers. Seeing the roughly 79% almost immediately follow in 2011 to 93, the potential exists. We'll know in June when we have the revised ratio study. And again, in the meantime, if we have partnered with Essex and they're doing their reassessment in 2024, we would be in a position to do ours in 2025.
Again, we wouldn't realize any difference until January.
That would be correct. So if the June assessment ratio declined further, then we would wait, or we maybe could expedite our reassessment and start it in late 2024. But more than likely, the bulk of that work would take place 2025.
So, and this is just for clarity. This is not a discussion about real estate taxes.
No, it's not.
This is about the real estate valuations, and if valuations change, then the tax rate, in order to be zero-based, the tax rate changes accordingly to not impact real estate taxes. The tax discussion is separate from this. So one of the downsides of this is we are leaving money on the table because the public utilities that pay real estate taxes are paying on the basis of our decreased ratio. Correct.
Yeah,
Do you have any calculation of what the essentially the money left on the table, the lost revenue is to the county by having an understated valuation?
not at this time, not at this time. I would want to get a better understanding of exactly how they calculate that at the State Corporation Commission between them and tax before I give a number publicly. I would note, though, that by having the assessed values come in marginally lower than the selling prices across the bulk of our sales, it is trending that direction where we probably want to consider reassessment. And elaborating a little bit on what you said, Mr. Chairman, it's not about trying to raise taxes. It's about trying to make sure we have as equitable and fair an assessment on property values as we can. Because if you let them get out of skew too far, then you've got some people paying more and some people paying less based on their assessed values. And it's out of fairness. We want as equitable and fair an assessment across those class of properties as we can get. We're after accuracy.
Matt, at the same time, the question that Lud asked, and you said you didn't know exactly how much money we was getting to the back to the county through utilities. In the past, I guess that was a number like last year or the year before that is how much money that we have been getting back. Now, would that affect the amount of money that goes to the schools on the same thing we talking about? Money coming from the state, is that in there too, money we get from the schools?
Well, let me answer it this way. I can tell you what we were told this year for public service corporations, and that's what we adopted is $763,000. What I would struggle with is proposing how much of that may be left on the table if the current assessment ratio stays the same, without getting a good solid estimate from tax and the State Corporation Commission to do the formula.
And when they do their assessment, they're using the assessment based on the price that people are paying for houses.
It's based on the selling price of that class of property, right? So for instance, the assessed value for suburban homes, class 2, is $70,806,000. The total selling prices of what was reported to the Department of Tax was $1,629,000. 100 million, excuse me.
So it was greater, the selling price was greater because I missed the first part of it.
Right.
The selling price was greater than what we was credited for, so to come out with the percentage.
That's correct.
Well, you know, the way, you know, I see these percentages and stuff like that. On the way I look at it is, it almost like the market in 2008, that a lot of our houses that are sold in Middlesex County, people are paying for more than what it's worth. Now we're going to have to, and I agree with watch and see what Essex does, because we're going to have to be very careful here, I think, because people are overpaying the prices for houses. And the revenue that the county gets, it's going to cost a certain amount to run the county. And our assessments, I was going to say our assessments going to be, I don't know if we can make it what we wanted to do. I really don't know. Because what we're going to do if a person overpays for a house, realizing that the only tax that they are paying on it is the assessed value of the property when they buy it. I think in some places saying that you pay for it, you pay tax on that until you do another assessment. It'll be pretty interesting because they probably got places in the United States that does that. So this is going to be very interesting. And I agree 100%. We get we hold pat and wait and see what everybody else is doing, because we are leaving money on the table. But if we got to pay more than we get back by increase in taxes in some way, then sometimes you better off leave the money out your way because it won't benefit us. I just hope we can keep it simple so everybody can understand that. That's all I want, you know.
Right. Well,
I've been
and
at this
kind of
and-
building on what you said, Reggie, there's a number of exemptions or exclusions that tax will take into consideration. So if somebody has like a sweetheart sale where, say, I buy a waterfront piece of property for 10 grand, well, it's clearly worth $10 million, but it's a sweetheart sale or, you know, I'm their relative or something, that's kicked out. And the reason codes for non-qualifying transfers on things that get kicked out of the equation are listed by the Department of Tax. They've been doing it a long time and they've got it down to a science. The best thing I could say is, you know, again, it's not out trying to get more money out of the citizens or trying to overvalue someone's property. The goal of an assessment is to have as equitable and accurate assessment as possible based on your classes of property. Again, we've only had one class sale of agricultural undeveloped land, but it was approximately half of what the sell price was, the assessed value. So it's something that we'll want to keep in consideration when we hire our next consultant to do the assessment, and something that the board may want to discuss about whether or not we want to take on more of this in-house so we have a consistent assessor with local knowledge of our conditions and whatnot.
Well, the work for the 2022 assessment values was done in 2021. How much inflation has taken place since then?
Last,
14%?
yeah, I mean, we've had, if you look at the CPI and what Social Security uses between that same period of time, what was it, 14.9%? And
Right,
then
so-
another 4% this year.
I don't think housing was immune to inflation during that time. And I think that I don't think that there's an action item to be taken right now, but I believe that we should be reassessing with a knowledgeable assessor on a regular basis more often than every 4 or 5 years, just because I don't think that it does us any good to have inaccurate figures about what our property is worth.
I think accuracy is what we should shoot for. And just to elaborate a little bit about a quote that I had last month, I'm not suggesting that we completely depart from the 4-year assessment trend. We can continue to do it every 4 years if that's what the board wants to do. Whatever the board wants to do is what we're going to implement anyhow. But just as important as keeping an eye on the assessment ratio, arguably, we've done a fairly decent job because our assessment ratios have been largely right around 100% historically since 2010 anyway, with one exception. And that was I would argue, another black swan event. And again, as I said last month, with our reassessment being completed and implemented January 1, 2022, you'll notice when this first report came out, we were at 91%. So the market was already shifting. How you dial that in, it's hard when you have market fluctuations like we've seen. It's entirely possible, though, given the state of the economy and other factors, the high mortgage rates, not least of which, we may see that trend turn around. June will tell that tale.
You know, it also in the Black Swan event, that was caused by something happened. It didn't just, you know, go out the air. The real estate values we have in which we're gonna have because people are overpaying. And sometimes you got to stay pat when you're overpaying for something that's not worth that. Because we know that we sell our homes or whatever we have, and if somebody offers enough money for it, we sells it. And now we're playing with the numbers now trying to fix it. Sometimes you got to stay pat. So I just gonna see, I mean, you know, try to watch this, but I think it can be fixed. But it's going to be fixed on the beginning because the ones that keep messing with this are thinking a step ahead of how they want to handle it. And that's how come we at where we at now. And we're looking at 77.8% that they're going on a comparison. And then we look at, say, the values are so high in a small county like this here, and you go up Northern Virginia when they say the value is almost equal, well, naturally, they're overcharging. And now we got to deal with it. Everybody know the black swan in automobiles was the chip. And all the dealership got together, insurance companies and everything else. That's what happened. They caused the event. All they had to do is stay pat, but they didn't. Now it's kind of like moving a little bit the other way. So we got to see what's going on there, but we got to stay still. You know, but we'll see how it goes. It's a lot of numbers there, and the numbers are very misleading. You can make them, you can fool anybody with numbers. I'm not talking about you, Matt. I'm just saying that numbers can fool people because that's the easiest way to do it. Because most people don't look at them.
Well, I definitely agree with that. And I guess the only other thing I'll add to this is the county administrator, interim county administrator in Essex County has let me know that they're planning on having a work session in Essex with their board, I think on the 21st of November. I guess I was halfway invited to come up and chat with them about a potential partnership between the two counties in reassessment. I've continued to reach out with the other county administrators around us. Essex, their assessment ratio is 7.2 last I saw. So they have a more immediate need. That's why I would suggest if we were to partner with them, maybe they do theirs in 2024, maybe we do ours in 2025. In any event, I'll probably be attending that work session and I'll bring the board back more information in December.
You know, Matt, I like that because that's good information. And I'm sorry I can't go to Vago this year because of my condition, because I talked to all the supervisors and find out how things is going on, you know, and what the pros and cons, because, you know, the more minds you have, the better off you're going to come up with some type of conclusion anyway. You know, just making a decision is easy if you got all the facts.
Yeah, and that's right. You know, we're all in this together, and there's not a county in the Commonwealth that's not struggling with similar issues, kind of navigating this new world we're living in, so to speak. So I'd highly encourage board members continue to, if at all possible, to reach out to their colleagues around the state, because I know I do, and you learn a lot from each other. So let me leave you with some good news. How about that? Well, real quick before I forget, the board retreat that was scheduled on November the 11th, and chatting with a couple of, November 17th, and chatting with a couple of you, and given the fact that we are looking to appoint a board member to serve Hartfield, it was suggested that maybe a better time would be to consider that board retreat, strategic retreat that we do annually, sometime in December. After that appointment hopefully would be made at the December board meeting on the 5th. That would afford the newly appointed board member to sit in on that retreat. And of course, Mr. Crittenden's here tonight. Welcome. He would be invited to that retreat as well to kind of kick everything off. I have reached out to Charles Hartgrove, our group facilitator from the Institute of Government, and haven't heard back from him on revised times in December, but we have a meeting scheduled with him anyway to talk about some of the issues, strategic issues facing the board, so he can get his feet on the ground this Thursday. And if we haven't heard from him by tomorrow, we'll reach out to him again on Friday. We'll reach out to him and get those times after our meeting on Thursday. It being the holidays, it gets tight. So we'll see what we can do.
What time in December, Matt, you talking about?
I'm sorry, Reggie.
Did we get a date in December?
We haven't yet. There's a couple of dates that lend themselves. Let me scroll up on that calendar. If you can see on the screen, state holiday for Christmas is December 22nd through the 25th, I believe. And I want to think the day after. Come back the day after. Our county attorney has some vacation scheduled the week of Christmas, and I have some tentative, but I may have to adjust some of my vacation plans based on staffing changes in my office, the week of the 10th through the 16th. So I was thinking the 20th, 21st, or potentially a Monday.
Well, the later better for me, because I got something got to be checked the 1st of December, and I'm gonna need me a 2 week period in there, so.
Right.
I'm looking at late December it'd be better for me.
So
so I
that puts us December 20th or the 21st potentially.
yeah, for me and myself, so.
Yeah. Well, while I got y'all here, what do y'all think? The 18th is a Monday. Don't have to be midweek or late week.
I think it makes more sense to cancel the November meeting and look at the December meeting. I'll have to look at some calendar stuff for me. For that time frame, and get back with you on that. I don't necessarily see a problem with. What was the date?
18th, 19th, 20th, or 21st really seems to be the best.
I like the 21st. I like the 21st.
Okay, well, I'll get back with you on mine.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll reach out to you, Mr. Crittenden, and we'll see. We'll schedule something around. And again, I'll get some time from Charles Hartgrove. Okay.
That's good.
I think I've covered most of that. Let me cover the good news. State budget update. And this is going to circle into our 2% COLA discussion. But the good news is the county and the schools, who are still with us bravely, fared fairly well on the budget amendment that was adopted rather late, August. Hopefully they don't make that a standard, but given Richmond politics these days, it may become more of a norm than has been in the past. So I wanted to walk the board through some of the unexpected revenues that we've received or that we've been informed by the comp board that we're going to be getting in particular. As the board is aware, and the public may not be, we get a number from the state compensation board every year on what they're going to pay for state supported positions, specifically our constitutional officers, Commonwealth's attorney, sheriff, commissioner of revenue, treasurer, and clerk of court and their staff. Back in 2008, when the, budget crisis happened at the state level, the state opted to take funding away for several state supported positions in the treasurer's office and in the commissioner's office specifically. We were very pleased to find out that in this budget amendment that was adopted, that funding for those previously supported positions was restored. We have one position that had restored funding in the Commissioner of Revenue's office, and we have two. The restored funding for the Commissioner's Revenue's office amounted to $30,900, and the two positions that they restored funding for in the Treasurer's office is just under 53.5. The county has been funding two of those three positions consistently since 2008. We've been funding it with county tax dollars. With this change in this amendment, a new benchmark's being set where the state is going to restore funding for those state supported positions. And this is unexpected revenue for us that comes into being pretty much now. So on top of that $80,000, the state made some significant changes to adjust sheriff salaries, fix compression and wage issues based on length of service for the sheriff's deputies, and a number of other fixes in the clerk of court, circuit court's office to amount to unexpected revenues of about $198,000. So there's your good news. Merry Christmas to us. And thanks to the General Assembly, they did that, which leads me to a question. They also approved, as we expected they would, the 2% cost of living increase for state-supported positions, including constitutionals, social services, deputies, school staff, etc. We had budgeted for that 2%, but have refrained from paying it out until we knew that amendment was going to be adopted. If the board will recall, when we adopted the budget, the state was nowhere close to passing that budget amendment, but they were promising they were going to. They were also telling us at that time that in order to receive that 2% cost of living, we would have to budget for it in this budget year, that they would not allow pre-funding of those increases, which the county did last year. We funded a 7% last year. And at the time, when we adopted this budget, we were under the very strong understanding that that interpretation of allowing pre-funding COLAs was no longer the case, that you had to fund it in the budget year that the state funded it. We will make it a point every budget year from here on to do exactly what the state budgets or recommend for that, as opposed to playing the what if game. The state threw a little bit of a wrinkle in this, though, because now they've rescinded that interpretation and are allowing us to pre-fund a COLA increase. So technically, we paid our COLA out last year, though we have it budgeted for this year. After some discussions with the schools in our county school finance committee and discussions with our sheriff and some of their wants and desires in next budget year, bringing their bottom, I shouldn't say it like that, their entry-level deputy positions up a little bit more to be competitive. It's our recommendation that we fund, or excuse me, we've already appropriated the money, we budgeted for the money, but that we go ahead and do the 2% match, 2% COLA, effective in December for us, and I think it's January for the schools, to avoid any confusion and consternation among staff. That's my recommendation. I think that's a recommendation of the school budget and finance committee too, by consensus. But again, it's already budgeted. We've already got it in the budget. We don't need to appropriate any additional funds to do this. And it's only funded for the remainder of this fiscal year. And then next year we'll adapt to the new base, which arguably will have $198,000 of additional revenue in that as well. But we didn't want to pay it out without getting authorization from the board before doing so.
Man, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
All right. A few minutes ago, you said that we gave them the money a year earlier. They have it.
Yes, sir.
And they shouldn't have got it. But we followed through. Now, my question is, now we got a lump sum of COLA money, and it says special people gets the money, and we're making it equal over the whole board based on 2%. Is that the way I'm understanding? Because what I'm thinking about right now, I already gave you the money. Now we got a lump of money that we got to pass out. Now this is coming from whether we have control over it. To make a long story short, I think it should be equal. You understand what I'm saying?
I think I do, Reggie, and it is. When
I say equal, I mean everybody gets the same thing.
Oh, well, we didn't do that, but that's something.
See, because that's the only way. They already got the raise. The states give us a lump sum of money, and if they're specified to, I'm gonna use teachers for instance, they specify to certain teachers get the money. That's the reason we get the lump sum of money. Or they give us a pile of money, and whatever they do can be divided up. But this particular time, it's kind of like up to us how we want to do it, isn't it?
Well, the way we budgeted a COLA, and that's what the state was doing. I think what you're referring to is a one-time bonus or an ongoing re-benchmarking of a flat rate.
I'm talking about benchmarking a flat rate that changes your salary altogether. It changes your own flat rate. And I've been thinking about this thing for a long time because percentages are great if you're on the top of the hill. And we talk about cost of living. I think we've been mentioning 2 or 3 times cost of living. Well, guess what? Somebody making $25,000 a year, their cost of living is going to be a whole lot worse than somebody making 100 or 150 or 200,000. Yet we selling everybody saying the cost of living is going up. Then what is it? Is it for one thing, one person is this and another person is that? It's different even in when you draw your Social Security, the cost of living going up 6%. And I'm saying, why can't it be equal? Because the separation in income is already there. You got that extra money to go to school or whatever. That starts right there. But all of a sudden now we're going what I see top heavy in the industry. And I might be getting off, but it's getting top heavy. And when you get top heavy, you get people that they're bad at scrapping. So I just look at the money. You know, I'm going to agree with the majority does, but I think it should be. It'd be interesting. And I asked the schools about it. I said, what if the money that we gave y'all, if you divided and everybody got a flat rate, where would we be at? You know, so in the county the same way. And I think I mentioned to you that everybody want to get everybody's salary up, but you keep on adding positions. And then you don't have the numbers to justify needing another person. You can easily get the salaries up by dividing the money that you get from the state and everybody's salary go up at one time. Some things you can't do that. And we did have, I remember talking to somebody, you know, and they said, hey, you can either get another position, get your salary up, or we can hire somebody else. And I think somebody, you know, when they do their budgeting this year and they want a whole lot of money, you know, sometimes they got to do something different or do a little bit more to get what you got. And the salaries would go up. It will go up if they decide to go to work, it will go up. So I'm just saying that in history and I worked in the outside sector all my life, you know, so, and I've seen that happen. I've seen flat raises move your whole salary up. I don't understand why a teacher got to leave Middlesex and go to teaching West Point, for instance, or Lancaster. And we talk about a table that we're going on, then we don't add the cost of living in. It's no reason for that, in my opinion. But anyway, I just wanted to I got what you're talking about, and I just, you know, thinking that money that's right now that we got to, if we're gonna be different, we got to do something different. We can't do the same thing everybody else doing and try to be different and better. And I just look like, hey, you know, let's try something from the top, because everybody in the room, if you want good people around you, you can't keep on ticking all the money and you're passing out the crumbs to the ones that's doing all the work. And that's the way I'm seeing this thing go right now. And I think it's the worst it's ever been. But I guess there's enough for that.
Well, Reggie, I would say you've been pretty consistent over the last couple of years during our budget discussions, you know, stating that. And I guess two things real quick. If the state puts out a cost of living increase that requires us to match in some way in order to be eligible for it, that's one thing we have to do. But I'm not against looking at kind of a re-benchmarking, if I could call it that, type of an approach that kind of establishes some thresholds where maybe some of the lower paid employees that are more adversely affected by the cost of living, I don't even want to say cost of living, just more adversely affected by market changes. We have a standard flat raise that maybe we can give first, second, third. You know, I'm talking out of my limit.
You know, and it's just something, man.
I don't want to take the first, second,
think
third
about
teacher.
when you do the
They'll
budget,
say, well, you
because
missed me. I'm a 10-year teacher and I need it too.
Because I'm gonna be, you know, I'm gonna be on that, because I think the middle of the road deserve more money, and we the ones that got to look out for them because nobody else is looking out for them.
Well, I'm intrigued to try that next budget year for 2025. I'm looking at our superintendent. Maybe we can get together and discuss a plan that could be put in parallel and I guess commensurate with what the state does. I mean, as long as we do what the state does and leverage that money, we're good.
Right.
And again, this is money that's already in the budget, so you don't have to adopt or appropriate anything else. We're just seeking authorization to expend it. The reason why tonight, we'd have to do it before the December payroll, because it will affect some changes at social services and with our deputies and us on the county side. And I think the school would need that time frame to affect it before January. And apologies from your staff, but this is the hand the state dealt us. yeah, we hope that doesn't become the norm, but it's liable to.
Okay, I got you.
Discussion, questions?
And I was asked one thing, if I may, not to interrupt, but how much would the expected cost be? Again, it's already in the budget, so there's no additional money being appropriated. And we're only half a year where we had budgeted a full year at 7%. My budget guidance person is not with me tonight, our finance director, Anne Marie. But I've estimated the cost to the county to be about $54,000. But that's, again, already within the budget. So we haven't been paying it out for several months. We're going to be having a surplus there because it's only half a year as opposed to a full year.
Questions for Matt? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion that we give the 2% that was already put in the budget. That's my motion.
For a second.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Jesse, second by Mr. Harris to implement the 2% that was built into the budget. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to make sure for the public, and it's already been said, or I've said it. And I've talked with, of course, yourself and the school people as well. It definitely was a challenge this year with, and we won't make that mistake again, or where we go out on the limb on what we're talking about on front loaded. But and as it turned out, it gave us some options at the end because the state didn't change their direction a little bit. The fact is, though, over the biennium now, with approving, if this is approved on the vote, it's going to be about 14% that we've given over the biennium. And I think that's great, and I think it's really good. However, I do with saying that is at some point we may have to say, regardless of what the amount the state is, based on what our revenues and expenses are for the county, of what we can afford, what we can't afford, what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. But I think that we've done a good job on trying to help not only the county employees, but the school system employees as well, with the turbulent couple of years that we've had, from inflation to cost of living to all of those things. All I'm saying is we will be cautious over time of what we decide to do or not do based on how that affects our bottom line on the revenue and the expense side. I think we're in a good position to be able to do that, and I'm glad that we can. And I hope that anybody that wants to say we're not looking out for our teachers or employees takes a second look at that based on what we've done over the biennium. And that's the only comments that I have. Thanks.
And the only thing I got, what I agree with Don, we've been looking at it a little bit different, different the next time. But I truly still believe that the 7% and the things that we did at the 5%, I still like giving everybody the exact identical same amount if it's possible. And that way everybody feels it, because they're already getting you something that you don't supposed to be getting anyway. And when you give a person a lump sum of money at one time, they appreciate that at one time, and it don't change that much. It don't change anything. And but once again, I say I'll go along with Don and agreeing what he is saying. But I do like the flat raise, to be honest with you. I just hope y'all look at it and see exactly how you can do it. And then maybe we can help to pull some salaries up where they think they need to be at. So but I still agree with the flat rate, just to be honest with you. even if it passed tonight, I still gonna agree with the flat rate. I would hope somebody have numbers on this thing and put you in an area that we can do it so we can help everybody, because once again, when we are hired on a salary. For whether we go to school, whether it's a pro, or whether the teacher that went back to school for 2 years or a teacher went 4. That one is sitting there betting for you. It's in there. And if you treat them right, you'll get a better person than what you will. You won't call separation based on money, because a lot of times you call separation. And if example is from the top, say, I don't want this, I'm gonna pass it on. It do make a difference. We can't keep on taking it off of myself, and the more I got, the more I want, because there are other things down the road that you're gonna get kicked back for anyway. So and that's just about it. I mean, we can just go ahead and do what we need to do, you know.
Thank you, Reggie. Any other discussion? Do we have the roll call, please, today?
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Kimbrough,
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Great, Mr. Chairman, last thing I have is I'm sad to report that our deputy clerk, Tammy Lynn Gilbert, has accepted a position with the state competitive job market that it is. More money, more time off, and she will be departing us, I think today. Yeah, she gave us a 3-week notice, and we are advertising for a new deputy clerk. I'm happy to say we've had some interest from some pretty good qualified candidates internally and externally. And we'll have more to report on that in December. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Need a 10-minute break. Yeah, we're in recess till 5:20. That clock is an hour off.
It's only 5 o'clock.
Pizza delivered? That's what makes you wonderful. It wasn't just a job. It's not just a job, it's an adventure, LOL. Don't forget to text Betty happy birthday. I'll have to send you a cute picture, Lisa. You got it. when it comes to closed session, do I get to stay in, question mark? And if it comes up, comma, I'm having a little bit of unstable internet issues.
Yes. It's 200.
I'll call the meeting back into session. Next item is the county attorney update.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And thank you for that COLA increase on behalf of the employees. I'd like to say thank you. You hear some clapping in the back there. All right. So with that, gentlemen, as you're aware, Supervisor Coons resigned effective October 31st, 2023. He was relocating to a different district. So at this time, pursuant to the code, the board will now go through the process of appointing someone to that position. But we also need to seek we need to request a special election. And I am seeking a motion to authorize me to file that paperwork, the writ for special election with the Middlesex County Circuit Court. And the special election would be held on the next general election, which is November 5th, 2024. And so the code requires me to do this, but I do like to procedurally ask for your authorization on your behalf to file that.
Also move, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jesse, second by Mr. Harris. Any discussion?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
So we will do an appointment for a person for that seat. And they'll have to run again in 24, November of 24.
Yes, sir.
And that seat runs out
In 25.
in 25, so they would have to run again in 25, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right, I'm good.
All right, if there's no more discussion, may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough,
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will be filing that tomorrow with the court, and obviously it's at the judge will determine if he'll grant our request, but I'm confident he will. And I believe that's everything. I have things for later this evening, but that was my only thing. Thank you.
Okay. Next is any unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? Hearing none. Any new business? Matters presented by the board. Mr. Jesse.
Well, as you know, we had a successful Oyster Festival Foundation for the Oyster Festival, 66 Oyster Festival. Everything went fine with that. Did have a PDC meeting. I didn't get all my information. And that was it for my committee reports. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Harris? Yes.
Picks up the a lot of the costs that the county would otherwise have to pick up. Also attended a school finance meeting with our chairman, talking about the needs and for the school. And other than that, I attended the EDA meeting, tried to do that. Of course, some of us were involved in the photo op for Tractor Supply, which is a good win for the county as well. And that's about it for me.
Report. Mr. Williams, do you have anything?
Well, I got one thing, just like Don was saying, and Wayne was there. It was a big thing of, Tractor Supply. So I got up there to see the groundbreaking for that. So, and other than being confined, I've been, that's just about it. But I've been keeping up on what's going on in the county and things that that we could do better. So in my whole time of my setback, I've been thinking of things, how things can be better for the county. So. And that's about it. And just let everybody know that I'm feeling a lot better now. Things are brightening up. I hope I'm climbing the mountain. I've been in the valley of dry bones. Now I'm just climbing out of it. So God is good. That's all I'm gonna say. And I appreciate what everybody called and the things that they done, and showing me that they were concerned.
Well, we're sure glad to hear that, Reggie. Thank you. I don't have anything, matters presented. I'll open the floor for any additional public comment. Would anybody like to address the board? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. And Madam County Attorney, I will ask you to read the closed session invocation.
Yes, sir. We have a lengthy closed session planned. It's my understanding that at this time, we do not anticipate taking any action, but we're going to leave this room open and be downstairs. So just for the public, but I do anticipate it being lengthy. We do have three separate motions to consider that I'm going to read all as one. So we need a motion to convene in closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1. This is going to be for a discussion of matters involving personnel, specifically the appointment of an interim board member, and pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A8 of the Virginia Code for consultation with legal counsel regarding the special election and the interim appointee and the process therefore. We'll also need to convene in closed session pursuant to 2.2-3711A3 and A8. This is for a discussion and consideration of the disposition of real property located at the airport, where a discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of this board, and for consultation with legal counsel for the specific legal questions regarding contract negotiations, the applicable statutes relevant to those negotiations, and the procedures for the disposition of the real property. And lastly, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A3 and A8, this is for the discussion of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the board, and for consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the public body regarding specific legal questions about said acquisition of real property.
Is there a motion?
So move. Second.
Motion by Mr. Jesse, second by Mr. Harris. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough,
Aye. Motion